It's time for Reason.
Why would we give the ability for the Supreme Court to come back and say it's not adequate enough and be able to consume as much of the budget as they possibly want to for education, and then for everybody else to get the scraps and the leftovers? Why have we not focused on the Kansas Supreme Court's constitutional amendment to limit the power of the Supreme Court? Why is that not the number one priority and the only priority that we've had when it comes to educational finance?
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heartland of America in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM here in Wichita, simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610, and broadcasting across the entire Mid-America network. Welcome in. Good Wednesday morning. It is a hashtag post-election Wednesday. Let me just say something. We are the happiest, most go-luckiest, most optimistic type of radio show and TV show and internet program broadcasting right now. We really are. We are the most optimistic. And today is a very successful day. Today is a very happy day. See, I'm the bright ray of sunshine that comes on every morning to be able to get you started when you wake up and you're like, it's so early. I got to figure out what to do to wake up today. And then you run into this, and then we just wake you up and get you excited because today, ladies and gentlemen,
Andy's optimism of the day.
All right, I'm ready.
That's what I'm talking about. Yesterday, the elections, and let me just tell you something. Conservatism is on the rise. You want to talk about a blue wave coming through the nation, sweeping the nation when it comes to these elections? Good luck with that. Good luck with that. We got a lot to cover today. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I want to hear from you. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, here's the headline from the IndyStar.com out of Indiana after the primary elections last night. A huge upset against two well-established names in the Indiana Republican politics. Wealthy businessman Mike Braun won Indiana's high-stakes GOP Senate primary as of last night. Braun, who fueled his bid with millions of dollars in his own money, defeated U.S. Representatives Luke Messer and Todd Rokita in what has been called the nation's nastiest and most expensive U.S. Senate primary. The Associated Press called it at close to 9 p.m. last night when Braun gained 41% of the vote. The results represent a stunning rebuke of two sitting congressmen and a powerful indicator that the anti-establishment sentiment remains strong among the Hoosier Republicans. Now, number one, remind you that this is where Vice President Mike Pence is from, former governor of the state of Indiana. Mind you that this is the Midwest region where predominantly we have conservative values, traditional values, although the unions are very heavy in these areas, and we need to be careful of that. But the anti-establishment mentality. Let me tell you something. Now that he's got the primary, this Mike Braun will win the general election in November. Period. End of story. It's going to happen. Why? The anti-establishment mentality. If you listened to the show yesterday, I gave you 5 points on what the Republicans need to do. And number one is where we've been kind of floating around the entire time as a Republican Party for the last 30, 40 years, which is just getting the majority in both chambers of the presidency. We have that. Have we done anything really with it? Nah, we've done some, but we could do a heck of a lot more because now it's time to not only continue to beat down the Democrats when it comes to the number of votes that they actually have as a political party, but then we also need to expose the members of the Republican Party that slipped in there or that have been in there for a very long time that don't necessarily represent the Republican platform or Republican ideals, but still have the name of a Republican. We call them a rhino, Republican in name only. The rhinos who are in the system, who are trying to say that they uphold Republican values, but they do not. And the sentiment still is for these outsiders running for office this primary and going into this election, the sentiment has been we're still going to fight Washington. Even though there's a Republican majority in Washington, we're going to fight Washington because we're going to fight the establishment. We're going to fight the rhinos. We're still going to fight the Democrats. And oh, by the way, we're going to fight anybody that's gotten in there and gotten a little comfy with their Washington, D.C. position. We're not going to do that. And this is a perfect example of that, of what happened with the Senate race last night in the state of Indiana. As an anti-establishment businessman that's never been in politics beat two sitting congressman to run for the Senate seat. It was a nasty election. I mean, there could have been a lot of dirt being thrown. I don't know. We're not obviously there. So, I mean, we didn't see some of the campaign ads, and it could have gotten very nasty, and it could have been some outside forces that affected this one as well, just kind of like how Roy Moore ended up losing down in Alabama for the general election last year. But nonetheless, it still shows that there's a sediment of the fact that he won at 41%, and there were 3 candidates in there, which means he got a pretty decent majority. Because the people want an anti-establishment conservative that's going to rally around President Donald Trump, that's going to advance the Trump agenda, and that's going to get things done. That's the example that came out of Indiana last night. That's the example that came out of the majority of the primaries across the entire nation. Now, about this blue wave, again, we failed to see it. Here's, according to the New York Times, is the recap of the Ohio primary elections as of last night. For the governor's race, as you know, John Kasich will be out and done. He will not be the governor of the state of Ohio any longer. They had a primary for the state of Ohio last night. There were 3 candidates for the Democrats. There were 6 candidates for the Democrats, 2 candidates for the Republican. Guess how many votes they actually received. Now, again, the turnout for a primary election is going to be way different than the turnout for a general election, because right now in the primaries, you really only have the activists showing up. That's it. You really have the activists showing up, and then by the general election is when everybody just kind of turns out. But it's a good indicator of how many activists and excited, motivated, rallied people there are on the political aisles in order to get the rest of the people excited to turn out for the general election. And guess what? If the general election was held last night, the governorship would have remained a solid Republican governorship. Turnout for the Democrats, 679,700 people. 679. Republicans, 827,000 individuals, with only 2 candidates, mind you. We would have dominated them in a governor's race. How about House District number 4, where there's not some of them, they didn't have a contested race on one side or the other, so I didn't really count some of those. But 2 candidates for the Democrats, 2 candidates for the Republican. Right now, currently a Republican-held seat. The Republican would have still dominated 65,000 to 20,000 that the Democrats received as a combined total between the 2 candidates on both sides. Would have remained a Republican seat. How about House District number 5? Representative Bob Latta. That was the district I used to live in, actually, when I grew up in Ohio and when I went to college back there. And District number 5, Bob Latta, there's a story by him, by the way, that's quite fascinating, that I unintentionally helped his campaign when I was in the College Republicans. I'll tell you that story a little bit later, as there came in some campaign finance laws and campaigning laws and super PAC laws that were violated, and that was a whole fun time, and ended up ruining the other guy's campaign that I was actually intentionally trying to help, and that didn't work out very well. They weren't very happy with me there. But we'll tell that story a little bit later. But District House number 5, Bob Latta's been in there for years. He's the incumbent. He received the nomination again for the Republican primary as 2 people tried to challenge him, and but still, even with 2 Democrats, 3 Republicans, guess what? Republican turnout total last night, over 61,000 people in that House District number 5. Democrats, 26,000 individuals. Domination. Where's the blue wave, ladies and gentlemen? Where is it? Where are these liberal progressives, these Bernie Sandersites, these socialists who are going to overturn everything, who's going to completely turn this country over on its head and completely turn it upside down, and is going to start controlling things and going to stop Donald Trump? Where is it? They keep saying the blue wave's going to happen, that Republicans need to be scared, that Republicans need to be concerned, that Republicans are a little wary about what's going to happen, that President Trump's starting to panic about the fact that he could be losing his majority in the chambers and that he's not going to be able to advance any type of agenda. That's the narrative from the media. Where is it? I don't see it. Because so far, everywhere where there's an incumbent from that side of the aisle, they're getting predominantly more votes than the other party in the primary elections. In Ohio, in West Virginia, in North Carolina, in Indiana, everywhere. We're seeing the excitement more so on the Republican side. Why? Because we're doing things. We're getting things done. And we need some more help. We need more Republicans in Congress. We need more conservatives in Congress because, as I mentioned, with our 5 steps of what we have to do, not only by a majority do we have to start advancing a Republican agenda, but once we begin to expose the Republicans or some of the rhinos or the establishment for not advancing the agenda, then you start weeding them out. So it's not only cleaning up the Democrats' messes, but it's also cleaning up the messes from within the Republican Party. And that's the step that we have to start taking, because once we do that, once it's all done, once Kansas and Oklahoma and Texas is pretty solid on its own already, so I give you guys credit. You guys are kind of rock solid down there. But New Mexico and Colorado. And once we start cleaning up the messes of not only progressives trying to have a say in politics, but we start overriding them with Republican majorities, then we start weeding out the ones that pretend to be Republican that aren't really Republican, and we start doing something really, really great, then I tell you what, can you imagine what we could get done? We could have the wall built by the end, by middle of next year. We could have Obamacare repealed by the middle of next year. We could have, by fully repealing, I mean repealing the rest of the individual mandate, getting back onto a free market insurance plan, getting insurance companies back up and at it with lowering prices, raising the quality, and actually having better care. We can actually take care of these things. We can start negotiating better trade deals with other nations and other countries. We can do fantastic things, and we're on the way to do that. Last night, baby, win after win after win after win after win.
Winning.
Aren't you excited about it? Lots more coming up on the show. Your thoughts and calls as well. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, making it happen today on a Wednesday. It is a post-election Wednesday. We love having you aboard. Let's wake up the right way, baby. What do you say? 316-721-8255. By the way, before we get into more of the election coverage, we got some calls on the line as well. We'll take you here in just a second. I want to tell you about it is up and running officially. I believe it is just about complete, and we are doing the ribbon-cutting official release of our websites for the station. I've been working on them. Look, I've never been a web host in my life. I've never done website stuff before. Learning about it, figuring it out, and I'm really excited, really proud about what we've come up with. So check it out. Here in the Wichita area, kqamradio.com. And it's funny, it's actually nice because all the stations that we're on right now, which is why I thought it would be appropriate to do this, all the stations that we're on right now, they're under the StecklineCommunications.com, as we all own, or owned by Steckline Communications. StecklineCommunications.com is the main site, and all of our stations are right there. All of them that are on right now, KQAM, KIUL, KYUL, KGYN, all of the stations are on there, so you can check it out. But to go to the station pages, KQAM.com, KIULradio.com, KGYN.com, and all the websites are up. You can check out the station pages. You can see the show lineups for the entire lineup of the station day by day by day. You can see any promotions that we're working on, any kind of giveaways, any type of registrations, any type of fun activities that we're doing. You can see if I'm going to be going anywhere or being involved in anything. It's going to be, you can see what I'm up to. We have the show pages. If you go to kqamradio.com or KIULradio.com or KGYNradio.com, if you go to one of those at the top there, you'll see the tab for local shows, and it's all the local shows that we have under Steckline Communications. And you'll see the Voice of Reason. You'll see the Mid-America in the morning. You'll see the Wake Up Show for KGYN. You'll see all the shows right there. You can click on the show tabs, and you can see information on the specific shows. So, for example, if you go to kqamradio.com and you can see everything for KQAM, you can also see all the local shows that we have for the station. But under the local shows tab, click on the Voice of Reason, and then it'll come to my page, and you can see my weekly guest lineup. You'll be able to see any type of blog right now, which I do have a daily blog up right now, and it's a recap of the legislative session, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more in the next coming days, so stay tuned in for that. But I got the daily blog. I have pictures of me going out anywhere that we've been, a recap of some of the events that I've been able to MC with some of the rallies. And if I'm doing any more, there'll be information on those to where you can come see us. We also have a link to all the podcasts of the show. So if you miss any of the show or want to listen to it, if you're out in Western Kansas, you only get the first hour of the program. You want to hear the rest of it, go to kqamradio.com. Click on the Voice of Reason under the local shows tab. You can find the podcast, and there's 2 weeks worth of the podcast right there for you to listen to. There's a lot of information. It's really cool. All the stations, as soon as there's a promotion going on, a giveaway, ticket giveaways, fun promotions, whatever it is, go to KIULradio.com, go to KGYN.com, go to KQAMradio.com, and then you can check out all the great deals and the great stuff we have. Also, all contact information on everybody there, and what to do with the station. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun, and I learned so much being able to put together a new website. Never done that before. So check them out, KQAMradio.com, KIULradio.com, and KGYNradio.com. Check them all out for all the stations that we're on right now with the Mid-America Network. Let's go to the phones, 316-721-8255, 316-721, talk line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
Great.
Good.
Could you please call Great Plains TV and ask them to boost, or tell them to boost their signal? It's not my antenna. It keeps fading out, and I'm trying to watch you.
Uh-oh, that ain't good. Yeah, we'll have to pass that along and see if. Now, where are you? Are you on the fringe of their range, or where are you located?
No, I'm well within. I'm in the southern edge of the city, the thriving megalopolis of Wichita, Kansas.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, we'll see. Now, what kind of antenna? Here's the thing. I don't even have an antenna at home. I don't have any TV at home, and I need to get one because I kind of want to see what all's on there. So what kind of antenna do you have?
I have a omnidirectional amplified antenna.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Well, I will. Well, we'll pass that along and see. It's how they boost it or what you can do to be able to get a little bit better signal. But from what you see, so it's kind of fading in and out. But overall, does it look pretty nice?
Well, not really. Right now, it says no signal.
Okay.
I can't see or hear you.
Well, you know what probably happened was my face probably broke the camera for you.
Well, I can't disagree with you.
That's probably what happened right there. I love it. I appreciate the call. 316-721-8255. It is so funny. I'll never get over this. I went to broadcasting school, and I went to the broadcasting school with the intent of doing radio, which is what I'm doing, and I enjoy it. And I never thought they did radio and TV, and I never thought I would do TV. I tried it. Didn't really enjoy it necessarily that much. I tried to do it. We did a 30-minute newscast at the broadcasting school, learning how to do on-location reports, do a news studio report, do the sports report, and go do one thing, and do it all. And I tried out for the whole anchor thing and reading the teleprompter. I couldn't do it. I tried to read the teleprompter, and I tried, and I ended up sitting there just squinting, trying to look at it and trying to read it, and it did not look natural. It was terrible. And yeah, no, I couldn't do the TV thing. And I said, you know what? I just want to do radio because I got a face for radio anyways. So what do? They put the camera in front of me. We do the Facebook Live now, and now we're on local cable. I love it. I appreciate it. I mean, it's fantastic, but, that's probably what happened. I probably broke it. It's all right. Give it some time. It'll be back. Bottom of the hour news coming up. We'll recap some more of this election. Also, some of the news happening here in Kansas. Good news, bad news. Some of our congressmen talking about the appropriations and spending deals that President Trump's making, plus the Iran deal. We're done. We're out. We'll get your thoughts on that. There's a lot of things happening right now. We'll get your thoughts on all this when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Why do we dream when our thoughts mean nothing? And when will we learn to control?
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today. It is a Wednesday, hashtag post-election Wednesday, and I want to hear from you. What's your thoughts on everything that happened last night? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Plus, we're on social media, Facebook Live right now. Facebook.com/1480 KQAM. Like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question. Let's blow up social media. Let's blow up the Facebook Live. Let's get the algorithms of Facebook off our backs, and that way everybody can see it, because we are, by the way, the fastest growing program in the entire Mid-America region. So we appreciate that very much, and let's make that seen and shown on social media. 316-721-8255. Here's a story from the Indianapolis Star out of Indiana. House incumbents win primaries. Unclear if blue wave will reach any in the fall. Oh, the media is starting to doubt themselves, eh? What have we heard so far? Oh, the blue wave. Oh, the blue wave. Oh, the Democrats are going to be taking over. Oh, so there are so many angry people with President Donald Trump. There are so many people that detest him. There are so many people that think he is racist. There are so many people that think he's a fascist. There are so many people that think he's just a terrible, horrible person that the Democrats are going to win by a landslide across the board in this midterm election. And that Donald Trump will be a stagnant, ineffective president for the rest of his term, and then we can vote in somebody else and get him out of office in 3 years if they don't try to impeach him. Because, by the way, if we get a Democrat majority, then we can begin the impeachment process. That's the platform they're running on. There's no substance to it. What's the ideas that they've had? Okay, what do we want to do? Well, I don't know. We want to do some type of socialized healthcare, but we're not sure how far we want to go with it because we're really not socialist. We're just kind of sort of socialist. Just a little bit. Did you see that clip, by the way, of Hillary Clinton a few days ago, about a week or so ago, that came out and said, the reason I lost the election in the primary or in the general election was because Democrats didn't support me because the Democrats are socialists and they couldn't get over the fact that I'm a capitalist. What? Excuse me? You, Hillary Clinton, the one that wants to punish. Now, I get it that Bernie Sanders is more socialist. And you really believe along the same lines that he does. You've just tried to cover it up a lot more. But that was the reason you lost the elections, because Democrats are angry because the Democratic Party is socialist and you are a capitalist. That's the excuse that she's now using because she lost the election. So she's going to come back in and try to be socialist. Because Bernie Sanders can't apparently do that because he's the old guy that's never going to get momentum. So he's going to be done and out. She's going to come in. She's going to represent the party again, supposedly. And then she's going to be the full-on socialist, and then she'll be able to win the support, right? That's her plan. That's where the Democrats are. What ideas do you have? We've repealed Obamacare. It's not coming back. We're going to build the wall and actually enforce immigration. Amnesty and open borders is not going to come back. It could come back maybe 5-10 years from now with a new administration, but as of right now and for the long term, if we actually play our cards smartly, it's not going to come back. The Iran deal is dead. NAFTA is being renegotiated. The TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, is being renegotiated or going to die. We are doing insane things. Again, we've said this before, and you've heard this on many other outlets, but how many other administrations have you seen this much stuff getting done in a year or two? How many other administrations? None. Because they take the kind of the Mitch McConnell mindset of this as, well, we did two things last year. We nominated a Supreme Court justice, and then we got a tax thing done by the end of the year, and two things was a pretty hefty year. Really? That's our leadership right there. That's not just in leadership, but the fact that he's an elected official representing you and I being a leader. We need leadership. When we talk to different candidates, when we talk to different elected officials, when we talk to people that are wanting to be involved in politics in some way, shape, or form, when we talk to them, one thing that I always look at, and maybe it's not to you, but it is to me, one thing that I look at very, very seriously is, can they be a leader? The policy discussions, the platform that they stand on, it's important. But at the same time, we kind of already know that in a primary that predominantly Republicans play to their base of conservatism and talk about how conservative they're going to be, and they talk about their platform, and they talk about what they're going to support and what they're not going to support, and the Democrats play to their base, which is a little bit more on the left-leaning fringe, to where they're going to support more progressive ideals. And that's just what you do. Now, when they get up there and they actually vote, then we can actually see, but they can talk all they want to. We don't necessarily know. And not to mention that when you go up there as well, it's kind of a whole different circumstance to where you're playing the long-term game, and sometimes you have to work on chipping away at the small scale things as opposed to the large chunk at a time. And I understand that. So I'm not going to fault anybody on that sense. The one thing that I look at, because you can talk up, blow smoke up a you know what every day, all day long on the campaign trail. What I look at as an individual, this is me personally, maybe you look at it differently, but the way I look at it is when you look at a candidate, whether it's for a city council, whether it's for a county commission, whether it's for a state elected official, whether it's for a federal position, when you look at a candidate, do they have the leadership skills? do they take charge of the discussion? Do they take charge of the situation? Do they come into a terrible, horrible situation and they say, all right, here's what we're going to do. You go over there and take care of this. You go over there and take care of this. I'm going to do this, and we're going to get this done, and we're going to attack this at all different angles, and we're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to make this done. And they take charge of the situation. It's kind of like a reality TV show where you watch maybe like Survivor. And I haven't seen Survivor in years, but you watch Survivor and there's the few that come out and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. Here's the game plan for the challenge today. You're going to do this. 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 All right, here's the campsite. We got to set up our campsite. You go get firewood. You go start fishing and getting food. You start building this. You start making a campfire here. You start doing this. I'll start finding this. And they kind of delegate and they start taking charge. That's what I want to see. The policy issues, the platform, yeah, it's important, but at the same time, how do you know that they're actually going to do that? And, I mean, maybe their record will prove that, which is good, and that'll help. But at the same time, you need to look beyond that. You need to look beyond that. There are many different angles of how you actually choose a candidate, and I believe that people are beginning to wake up and see that. It's not just the sweet talking. It's not just the smooth talking. It's not just the polished, nice little politician look. That's nice, and that's all hunky-dory, but that turns into the reality TV show in the bad way of just the popularity contest. Big Brother, Big Sister, whatever the hell those shows are called, or The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Are you getting the rose tonight? And it turns into that, and I don't want to see that. I want someone, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, feisty. I want them to go up and take charge. I want them to delegate, and I want to hear them in the news every single day. I want to hear them making a statement on the House floor or on the Senate floor. I want to hear them making a statement against leadership if leadership's making a bad decision. I want to hear them making their own statement, becoming a leader, and being a little bit of a rabble-rouser. Look, the American way, as it was back in the revolutionary time, and we still are today, is that we are the rabble-rousers. We're the rebels. We're the crazy ones. We're the ones that stand up and say, 2% tax, to hell with you, we're starting our own nation. Oh, you're trying to take our guns away. Good luck with that. That ain't going to happen. We're going to start our own nation, and heck with you guys. We've never run a country before. We don't know the first thing about doing it, but we're going to figure it out because we're not going to take your crap. And I'd rather go down, and I'd rather fail miserably on my own than have you support me and take care of me and lose my liberty and controlling me in every step of the way. It's not going to happen. That's the rabble-rousing, rebellious kind of mindset we still need to have because it's in our DNA as an American. It's in our DNA. So all of our senators, Oklahoma, Kansas, stand up, yell, scream. And if leadership tells you not to do it, then you do it louder. Well, we might lose a position. Well, you know what? But you'll be in office, and the people respect you. Even if people don't necessarily agree with you or support your ideas, they at least respect you, don't they? I've had numerous individuals on the progressive side of the aisle that despise every word that I say, hate my guts because they hate everything that I have to say, but at the same time, they respect me because they know that I stand firm for what I believe in. They know that whenever they try and dialogue with me, I'll always be able to defend my position, and I will not waver. The people that are kind of wishy-washy in the middle that, what's over here? What's over here? Oh, what's over here? And they kind of float around. You know, notice, just think about it. You don't have respect for them, do you? When they say, I'm going to talk tough and I'm going to do this, and then as soon as the challenge comes, or they even don't have a position. Well, what do you think? I want to hear what you have to think. And then I'll base my opinion based on that. No. You're an elected official. You're a representative. You represent me. The reason I put you into office was because you had an idea, you had a vision, and you had the qualities that I looked for, and I liked that. So represent me. I trust your decision-making, which is what we're supposed to be saying to many of our elected officials. And that's what's going to come up with this election. I see a huge piece of momentum, a huge bit of momentum coming into this election this fall, both locally here in the state of Kansas and Oklahoma and many other states around us, and then going in to nationwide races when it comes to this whole blue wave and the conservatives. And I see conservatism actually doing very, very well. Midterms are predominantly not very favorable to the party that's in power at the time because people get tired, people get frustrated, and they want to change. So usually, historically, a midterm election is very unfavorable to whoever's in charge with the majority at that time, and you see the big shift. That's what happened during Barack Obama's time, that they had the Democrats, and then we saw the largest gain of Republicans and the most amount of Republicans in both chambers with a supermajority since World War II. And that happened under Barack Obama's time because we said, this ain't happening anymore. This is insane. And the Democrats are hoping for that same kind of shift come this midterm election, and it's just not going to happen. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. When we come back after the break, I do want to recap. Before we go, I want to talk about a little bit about the budget that's being proposed. President Trump doing more things other than just getting rid of the Iran deal, which I do have the statement by our congressman here in the 4th Congressional District, Ron Estes, his statement on the Iran nuclear deal. Then, of course, the rescission of the Trump rescission proposal with close to $15 billion, with a B, billion dollar in spending cuts. Where's that coming from? And the crazy attack and the panic from the left as they're again trying to focus all this on the midterms. I don't know what their platform is other than Trump's evil and we need to stop him, which is kind of the same platform that the Republicans had during Barack Obama's time, but they don't have any alternatives other than saying let's reinstate everything that just Donald Trump has repealed, when we're actually doing very, very well because of the repealing of those policies, and they want to reinstate them. I don't know what delusional world they necessarily live in. I don't know what they're saying that we're not saying, or they're not saying what we are saying, but it is really fun to watch the Democrats squirm and lose every step of the way. So we'll talk about all of that and more. Plus, we got some interesting news here on the local front as well we need to get to. Your thoughts and calls on all of this. It's going to be a big time. It's going to be an exciting time. Let's stick with it. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. 6 minutes at the top of the hour. Great to have you along today. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program as we wrap up hour number 1, I'd love to hear from somebody on the western part of the state, Garden City, Guyman, Oklahoma, down in Texas a little bit. We do broadcast all over there here in the first hour on the Mid-American Network. Again, check them out, KIULradio.com, KGYNradio.com. For your stations out there, you can see all the bio information for this show, for your upcoming local show there, for all the great shows that you have on the stations. Check it out here in Wichita, KQAMradio.com as well. Got some great information on there. The Facebook or the website info is all complete and done on there. We appreciate that and love it very much. I feel really accomplished with the fact that I was able to actually get it all on there and get it done. Let's go to the phones. What do you say? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
My name is Eddie.
Eddie, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. For the person that wants to receive your on TV, it's very simple. Just point the antenna northwest. You have to point it northwest. My antenna is a RCA, and it is amplified, and it's plastic. It's about the size of a 5-inch by 7-inch picture frame, or about the size of the palm of my hand.
Okay.
It's on a pole right beside my house. I point it northwest. And to be quite honest with you, the audio and the video is excellent.
Fantastic.
It is excellent. Now, when you first came on several months ago, the video was okay and the audio was a little bit choppy. But since then, both audio and video is just picture perfect.
I love it.
Just point it northwest. You should get your wife an antenna. Get up on that damn house of yours, and that poor lady wants to see your mug on TV.
Oh yes, well that's true. Well, it's actually funny. She's been very nifty, and we've tried to do it a couple of times. We do need to get an antenna. We just haven't done it. We're cheap. We just have Netflix, and we've just kind of done it that way, and we've just watched video. But we do need probably to get to antenna. We need to get it for the kid for PBS with some of the kids shows and then for this show, so that way they're able to see it that way. But I'm glad it's coming in well. So, and I know that we worked really hard. The engineers back at the TV station have worked really hard, so that way they can get it so the audio is good, the video is good, everything's running nice and clear.
Hey, you know what? I also live in the southern part of the city.
Okay.
And believe me, now listen, I'm a radio TV man from the very beginning because I was in Wichita before there was even TV.
Sure.
And the audio, the video, picture perfect. Everything is just picture perfect. Seriously. But the deal of it is, with television, you point your antenna towards the northwest because that's where all the big boys are too, northwest. and just point it northwest. It comes in picture perfect.
I love it. I love it. Great times there, Eddie. I appreciate that very much. And I know you've been kind of an aficionado when it comes to the radio stuff as well, and been listening for a long time. So we love that and appreciate it very, very much. I do appreciate that. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Here's real quick. Congressman Ron Estes from the 4th Congressional District made a statement yesterday after the decision by President Donald Trump to remove ourselves from the Iran nuclear deal, which is, by the way, a fantastic thing. This is coming after the news and the statement from Benjamin Netanyahu out of Israel, talking about how Iran has been working on things behind the scenes against the Iran deal. They've been doing it anyways. Then we had John Kerry working behind the scenes trying to... By the way, how is he not locked up and committed for treason? It is against the law for government officials or ex-government officials to be working with other nations to collude against our very own nation. That is called treason. You're not allowed to do that. Why is he not locked up, thrown into a cell, and the key locked up and the key thrown away? That is called treason. You're not allowed to do something like that. But nonetheless, he's been working on that. So, you know what? With all the progressives and the Democrats loving the fact that the Iran deal was in place, and I get why John Kerry's wanting to do it, because he's the one that negotiated that, which shows how terrible of a negotiator that he actually is, and he wanted just to do something, and he felt that he was really good at doing it. So he did that, but Congressman Ron Estes yesterday made the statement, protecting the interest of America and of our allies around the world is paramount. Reinstituting sanctions on Iran sends a strong message that America will not tolerate state sponsors of terror and those who undermine effort to achieve peace. I support Trump's administration commitment to denuclearization in Iran and throughout the world, and wish Secretary of State Pompeo well with his travels to North Korea and represent our country in this effort. So he supports it. Many of our elected officials support this mindset of renegotiating the Iran deal, doing something better, because we're going to lay down the law, baby. This is going to be, we're not taking this crap anymore. It's been going on for way too long, and we're not going to tolerate it in any way, shape, or form. We'll talk about a lot more of that and more when we come back. Stay tuned in. This is your show as always. We love it. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 2 at The Voice of Reason coming up. Stay here.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
Why would we give the ability for the Supreme Court to come back and say it's not adequate enough and be able to consume as much of the budget as they possibly want to for education, and then for everybody else to get the scraps and the leftovers? Why have we not focused on the Kansas Supreme Court's constitutional amendment to limit the power of the Supreme Court? Why is that not the number one priority and the only priority that we've had when it comes to educational finance?
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Yeah, buddy, welcome back into The Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason right here in the heartland of America in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome in. What's happening? Great to have you along today on a hashtag post-election Wednesday, baby, as we're rolling right along 7 minutes past the hour, and I want to hear from you. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Big show today. Lots of things happening very, very quickly on the local front, on the national front, on the elections last night across the nation, in 5 different states, 4 or 5 different states. It was a big night, and a big night for, Republicans.
Winning.
That's what I'm talking about. Also, at the bottom of the hour, we got Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell joining the show as he does every single week, getting ready for the county commission meeting. But, today's kind of a bigger one because, with all the news happening with the county commission, we'll look forward to chatting with him and getting some more details on that. So a lot of things happening when it comes to the county commission and, of course, the elections. As I mentioned in the last hour, the big news, of course, is the fact that Indiana ended up choosing an anti-establishment individual for the Republican side running for Senate, beating 2 currently elected representatives running for that seat. And his name was businessman Mike Braun, ended up winning the GOP Senate primary. Braun, who fueled the bid, winning millions of dollars of his own money, defeated U.S. Representatives Luke Messer and Todd Rakita in what has been called the nation's nastiest and most expensive U.S. Senate primary. in the state. The Associated Press called the race at 9 p.m. last night when Braun ended up winning 41%. He's a former state lawmaker, owned the national distributor of auto parts, painted himself as an outsider with real-world experience who could shake up Washington. It's crazy that the mentality is shaking up Washington with the Republican majority in Washington. What does that tell you? That tells you that, number one, the blue wave ain't going to happen. It tells you, number two, that the Democrats are still going to be losing quite dramatically. It tells you that, number three, the Republicans that are in office need to be careful because no longer can we just have a Republican name but not actually advance Republican agendas. It's not going to happen any longer. This is going to be a win for not only Republicans, this is going to be a win for conservatives, and this is going to happen across the entire nation. No blue wave ended up happening last night. We understand that the primary voter turnouts are different than general election voter turnouts, but it really shows the number of activists in districts. And other than maybe one district in one state out of the 5 states that had a primary last night with many different primaries going on in many different districts, maybe one of them could potentially be turned around by the primary turnout last night. Other than that, nothing, nada. If they had an incumbent or they had somebody, a party that was predominantly running that district by the voter turnout yesterday, they would have remained in power. At least that party would have. That's good news. That's big news. Meaning that as long as we turn out and we actually show the activism in our states, in our area, especially here in Kansas, we have our primaries coming up in just a couple of months. Get ready. It's going to come faster than you know. You have a governor's race. You have state legislative seats. You have a lot of big things that you need to be voting on and need to be paying attention to. This is where we make our stand. I've said this over and over and over and over again, that the general or the primary election is the most important election that we can possibly have. We'll have more information on that in just a little bit. But I want to shift gears just a little bit as we go into some of the local issues. And as we mentioned, Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell at the bottom of the hour is going to chat with us. I saw this story, and I don't like usually talking about this stuff. It really bothers me. It really upsets me. It really breaks my heart, the fact that we have to hear stories like this. It's a very, very troubling issue, and I usually don't like talking about it because it's usually not a political talk story or even something to really talk about at length other than just give the news out. But this one, I'm concerned, could go a little bit deeper or go a little bit further. And it really breaks my heart. And this is Hat Tips Cake TV on this story. Wichita father accused of killing son, quote, wanted to make him a tough person. And you heard the story at the top of the hour news with Rick. But here's what the story is from Cake TV. A Wichita father accused of killing his 8-month-old son told authorities he wanted to make the boy the toughest kid by the age of 5. Doral Gwynn is charged with first-degree murder in the commission of a felony of the death of Jazz Gwynn, who died at a local hospital April 10th. Police say the boy's parents took him to the hospital that morning after he quit breathing. Jazz died at the hospital. Gwynn said he was shadow boxing and roughhousing with Jazz when his eyes rolled back and he possibly quit breathing. Doral said that they started to come to the hospital, that the child started crying, so that they went back to the house. He told the nurse that he put the baby in a walker in a room and left for an unknown amount of time. They went back and checked the baby. He was slumped over and not breathing, and they took him to the hospital. He said he was not mad, and he did not hit him out of anger. He said he believed that when Jazz was old enough to start crawling, he was old enough to roughhouse. He said he wanted to make him a tough person, and his goal was to make him the toughest kid by the age of 5 years old. First off, stepping aside from the absurd, stupid parenting that we had here by thinking that you could roughhouse with a 9-month-old and that you could shadow box, that you could roughhouse with an infant who is still developing and who's still very, very fragile and who is still, a baby. Other than that, what else is wrong with this picture? What else is wrong with the mentality of both the parenting skills of thinking you can roughhouse with them, but also with the whole toughness issue? Now, I'm all for being tough. Look, my daughter is one of the toughest little kids that I know. I tell you what, when she gets really mad, which we're trying to tell her not to do this anymore, but when she gets really, really mad, she tries to take a swing at you. And we got to teach her, no, that's not okay. At the same time, though, when she gets a little bit older, she's 3 right now, she'll be 4 in a couple of weeks. Hooray. When she gets a little bit older, I will teach her self-defense. And I do like to roughhouse with her right now because it's fun, and she's the one that likes to do that. But you always know your limits, and you always be careful with her. But she's 4, or she will be 4, not 9 months. The only roughhousing you do with a 9-month-old is by tickling them and by bouncing them on your knee. That's about the extent of the roughhousing that you do. So other than that side, wanting to the quote of saying that he wanted it to be the toughest kid by the age of 5. Do you think, and I know that this is going to come out, I know somewhere, whether it's the local progressive media, whether it's going to be the national media, whether some obscure organization takes this and tries to run with it, I know something's going to happen here to where it's going to be attacked, as we have mentioned before and last week, on the ultra masculinity and people being too masculine because the father wanting to have a tough kid trying to roughhouse with a 9-month-old because they wanted to be the toughest kid by the age of 5. Do you think this is going to be a full-out attack and an assault on the whole masculinity issue to where he's trying to make his kid too masculine because the father's too masculine, because they have too much of a mental illness of the masculinity, and they're going to take this to the extreme? I hope not, because, as I mentioned, this is a very heartbreaking story, and I hate to hear kids actually getting harmed, and it bothers me to no end that people, I don't know, some people maybe not have that clickingness or that biological connection of knowing how to parent. I mean, you obviously learn when you have a baby and you've never had a baby before. You're kind of learning as you go sort of thing. And we made mistakes and you do things and you figure it out along the way because you're an infant at learning to become a parent as the infant actually is being an infant. And you learn along the way. But sometimes there's some of those things where you're just like, The story about, what was it, in Colorado, the parents who were high on a certain substance, not going to mention which one, but it recently became legal, tried to give their less than a year old, I forget, it was 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, tried to give their 1-year-old really extremely spicy salsa, burned the intestines, did some really bad things to them. Why? Because they were ridiculous. First off, they didn't have very good parenting skills. Second off, they were high on a substance that kind of made them make bad choices. But this is what we have to get back to. We have to first get back to the family values. And when we focus on the family again, then maybe we can have some parenting, at least some kind of genetic, biological parenting skill to where you learn along the way. And you make some mistakes because everybody does. But at the same time, you have some common sense in there as well. You don't roughhouse and toss and box and punch and roll around and whatever you do with a 9-month-old, with an 8-month-old, whatever it is. You don't do that. It's just not common sense. Are there drugs involved in this? I don't know. The story didn't say anything, but there potentially could be. But we know what's going to happen here because they always like to do the groupthink mentality, like to spread it a little bit bigger. They like to make a story out of it. And they're going to say, oh, look at this. There was a dad who is extremely masculine who tried to be nice and tough and a brute, and they had a kid, and he wanted his kid to be a nice, tough brute and wanted him to become the toughest kid by the age of 5. And I'm sure that he had ambitions of wanting to have his kid become in the MMA and in a UFC fighter for the children. Have you ever seen that by the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, which I think is kind of cool. But, you know, you got to be, again, old enough to be able to do it. But he wanted him to be the toughest kid by the age of 5. Look at this. Ultra masculinity. The hotshot wanted to become tough, wanted to become masculine, ended up killing his 8-month-old child. It wasn't out of anger. It was a mistake, but wanted to roughhouse. There's a deeper lining in there that we really need to be careful with and we need to be aware of. Deeper than just the fact that there was bad parenting skills here. Deeper than the fact that, you know, it's just wanting to be tough, but people are going to take the wrong message away from it. People are going to attack it. And it really shows that where the family values are today because we're lacking them. And when we have generations grow up with the lacking of the parenting skills and lacking of the traditional family values, we're going to start seeing, unfortunately, more stories like this. I hope not. But if we don't have the family values in the home to learn how a family is raised, to learn what a family does, to learn how a family's nurturing, to learn what a family does to teach, and teach the right way. Look, you can have your kid tough, all the power to you. But what the heck, man? 9 months old, 8 months old? We're losing the family values. And we got to be aware of that. And we got to be very careful. And maybe we can start changing that tide a little bit. 316-721-8255. Am I looking too much into this? Is it just a fluke? Or is it going to be a deeper issue that we may see, and not necessarily in just our community, but nationwide as a whole? Let's go to the phone to get your thoughts on this. 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Nick.
Nick, what's happening, my friend?
Oh, not too much. Hey, I think when you talk about family values, I think it helps to define what those are. And whether or not we're talking about maturity or self-control or pleasure-seeking, whether it be the ability to have relations with somebody when you probably shouldn't, and then you're making babies or whatever, and you're not mature enough
Sure.
and ready to do it. But, we have a lot of people believe in the Bible and Jesus, and they have those as standards. And so, in Proverbs it says, train up a child in the way he should go. Do not spare the rod, but also show love and good discipline. And so there's that balance in there that we have to think about.
Sure.
And since we're on the topic, you actually are a bully when it comes to certain substances like the cannabis, because I know a lot of people that choose to imbibe in, say, alcohol.
Sure.
And there is much more problems when people don't have the maturity or self-control to involve themselves in that and have issues with child abuse or child neglect or marriage problems, domestic violence, and everything like that. So,
you're right. I mean, no, you're absolutely right.
No,
you're absolutely right. Alcohol has a huge effect to that. And I mean, people and look, it goes with anything where you take a substance and you alter your mind, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, if you take it to the extreme in any way, shape, or form, in any case, in any of these circumstances, then you do a lot of damage. How many families do we hear ad nauseum about how the parents were drunks or the parents were alcoholics and they abused their children, or that they had a bad family or a bad household and a bad home because of how that affected them. So you're absolutely right. And I mean, that was just the story about the parents that fed the hot salsa to the kid in Colorado because they were high on drugs. I mean, that was an example that came to mind. But you're absolutely right that there are many different substances, including alcohol, that can do absolute destructive damage to any type of family and household.
When we look for anything to put above God, it's going to cause problems, whether it is the pleasure-seeking of sexual relations or the pleasure-seeking of food or other substances or politics or anything like that. It's going to cause a problem with our relationship with our higher power, and it will trickle down into everything else, our relationships with our spouses, our relationships with our children, our relationships with our friends, and everybody else around us that we're supposed to be modeling, and they hold us to a higher standard because of our beliefs.
Sure.
And so we have to remember to keep that in mind as we go along, and we preach all of our conservativeness to also maintain that level of fidelity in other areas as well.
Amen to that, my friend. I completely agree. Nick, I love it. I appreciate the phone call very much. I appreciate that. No, it's a great point. I mean, faith for a lot of people, and I don't want to go down the religious sense too terribly much in this one, but it plays a big role, is that a lot of people, and the majority of people that, I wouldn't say the majority, but I'd say a lot of individuals that have the traditional family values are based on religious faith. And those that don't have religious faith or may not be the most religious individuals, which is okay, I understand, they still live by really kind of the golden rule sort of thing that we're based on religious teachings, but you don't necessarily have to be the most religious in order to have those same type of beliefs or ideals, but it really comes down to that family value, and a lot of people hold themselves to that by their faith. And because of something like that, then we have traditional family values. And you're right, if substances get in the way, whether it is drugs, whether it is alcohol, and they're taken to the extreme and people get out of hand with them, then you start seeing the breakdown of the family. I would include government in there just as much, because when government gets involved, we saw the story about how when more government increases throughout society, then there's less religion. And not only that, but when there's more government, then the stress is higher, the economy is lower, the people are struggling, the wages are lower, the cost of living is higher, and it costs more, and people are working more, and the breakdown of the family begins as well. Then you have the education of the government that actually has the young kids being taught something different and something way out in left field that contradicts everything about traditional values and family values, and we see the breakdown there as well. So between the lack of faith, I would say, between more government, and between substances, between all of those, we're seeing the breakdown in the family, and then we could start seeing potentially, hopefully not, but potentially more issues like this one. Let's take another phone call before we take a break. What do you say? Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, it's Kirk.
Kurt, what's going on, sir? Hello.
Hello?
Yeah. What's
Hi.
going on? Yeah,
Hey,
you're up.
well, I was just wondering if if the story won't change a little bit as that court date draws closer. I mean, that's his initial story, and who knows what really happened. I mean, he could have been trying to rough the kid up and make him more tough, but he could have just beat the kid too.
Well, that's true, and that might be, you're absolutely right, that might be the excuse to say, I wasn't beating the kid, I was just trying to roughhouse with him, but you're right, he may have some temperamental issues as well. So the story could change for sure. If it does stick to this, and this is the legit case, though, to where he was trying to roughhouse with him, then, I mean, I think wouldn't you agree, we may have some deeper parental issues or family value issues or just commonsensical issues to where you think you can roughhouse with an 8-month-old. But you're right, if it comes out and he actually was an abuser, then that's going to change the entire dialogue of the discussion.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Hey, very much. That's a great point. I mean, who knows? This is early in the stage, and as we go to court, then you're right, we could see something completely different there. Now, I don't know the background of this individual. He may have a record of having a hot temper. I don't know. So you're right. There could be a lot that comes out of this story later on. We'll just have to wait and see. If it does stick to this one, though, I am afraid that people are going to try and run away with the story talking about the whole masculinity issue, about hot-headedness, about egos, and about people that are trying to be really tough and how that's bad for children. And then we're going to see an entire another movement about how we need to get rid of masculinity and toughness because that's going to be detrimental to children. And I don't want to see that type of movement politically. And I don't like to politicize an event like this that's detrimental and very, very terrible and heartbreaking to hear about a child. But at the same time, progressives are going to do it, so we better nip it in the bud now before it actually happens. 25 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Unfortunately, we're seeing these types of stories all the time, not only locally, but as you know, the big national story of, what is his name, Schneiderman did the all sexual assault and beating his girlfriends and making them call him master and calling him a brown slave and all the other jazz. People are just getting out of hand and taking things a little too extreme and, oh, by the way, not acting appropriately. Why? Maybe the breakdown of the family and the lack of ethics and common sense in society. Bottom of the hour news coming up. By the way, check out KQAMradio.com. KQAMradio.com, our new website. We'll talk about some of the details of that when we come back. Plus, Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell when we rejoin after the bottom of the hour news.
Find your peace within the bitterness that burns.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. 35 minutes past the hour. Great to have you along today on a Wednesday. Hashtag post-election Wednesday. Yeah, we're having a little fun today. That's right. Hey, by the way, I want to tell you about what's coming up next week. We got a really cool promotion coming up that you're going to enjoy. Start setting your schedule. Next week, Monday through Friday, we're going to be getting you registered for a pair of tickets to the Indianapolis 500. Yes, going up to Indianapolis, going to the raceway, getting able to see the race, and you possibly get some tickets. We're going to get you registered Monday through Friday next week. We'll do the drawing on the following Monday, and this ticket giveaway brought to you by Autotech in 6 Gourmet Meats. 4411 West Central Avenue for Autotech. You can visit them online, autotechwichita.com. 6 Gourmet Meats out of Derby, 300 South Baltimore Street in Derby. You can find them on Facebook at 6 Gourmet Butcher Shop. Both of those sponsors, we appreciate them partnering up with us, giving away some tickets to the Indianapolis 500. You get a pair of tickets. We'll get you registered starting next Monday. Stay tuned in for more information. As usual, it is a Wednesday, which means it's time for a county update. As we have our Sedgwick County Commissioner on the line with us, Mr. Jim Howell back. Jim, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Andy. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Well, of course, the big news this week, and we got a lot to cover with the county meeting, with everything happening, but of course, the big news that was breaking earlier just a few days ago and is going to be going on for a while, I believe, is Sedgwick County Commissioner Michael O'Donnell getting indicted for wire fraud, bank fraud, and a couple other deals that could be pretty detrimental. What's the status with that? I mean, what's kind of the time frame on what we could see with some of the results of this?
Well, it has been reported in the news, and so I know a little bit from that. I would just tell you, I understand he's going to be appearing in U.S. Federal court today at 1:30 this afternoon. I do believe he has told people. I have seen him a few times up here on the commission floor in the last few days. I mean, he's still doing his job. He's still coming to work and that type of thing, and attending briefings and that type of deal. I do think he intends to attend today's meeting. I don't think that's going to change. So we do have a full agenda. We haven't actually had a meeting for the last 2 Wednesdays because we had a conflict. We had a conflict 2 weeks ago with some other things going on in the community. Then this last week, of course, we had I take that back. 2 weeks ago was our normal skip, and the last week we had conflicts on our schedule. But so we skipped the last 2 weeks. We have a fairly full agenda this morning, and so he does plan to be here. And but in terms of what's going on, all I can tell you, Andy, is I guess my perspective. I guess everybody has their own perspective, and so I'll just tell you my perspective, and that is he deserves his day in court. I don't really know the details. I've not seen the evidence. I don't know what the investigators have in terms of evidence. I'm just not really able to speak to the charges or what I expect might happen. It's really just not my. I just don't feel like it's my thing to even really give an opinion. As an elected official, I don't know that I should weigh in on that necessarily. I would say this. I do. As one who took an oath to uphold the Constitution, I'm sure you've done that at some point in your lifetime, or maybe.
I didn't have anybody hand it to me. I just kind of did it myself because that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do.
Just think about this. We all believe the Constitution, and one of the principles in there is the idea that we have judicial due process. When you're accused of a crime, you want to have a chance to have your day in court, and that's a principle I support. I would hate to see this. I hate to assume that I know enough to declare what I think should happen here, because I just don't know enough information. I don't know what evidence there is, and I'll tell you, Commissioner O'Donnell, I have spoke briefly about his accusations, and as he talks about it, he seems to have reasonable details that I don't think anybody else knows, and so I would really like to see this play out before I jump on the bandwagon of trying to call for his resignation. I don't think that's what I should be doing.
Sure.
I do think that the idea that let this play out in the courts is probably the best option. If he chooses to continue to participate and attend everything he's supposed to attend and actually do due diligence for the agenda items before us, then my opinion is that that's his choice, and I think he should do that. But with respect to all this other stuff going on, I'll just say, this, to me, seems like it's all stuff he did, private. What I understand is it seems like it's a private things that Commissioner O'Donnell may have done, but it's not something that I've seen, up here on the third floor. And so, in my mind, I'm trying to separate the two. Now, if he was using his office here, if he was making deals with people up here, people buying votes and things like that, I would feel much differently. But this is, something that's really, I guess, from my perspective, is not something that we have any. I guess I don't see any way that this is really a commission issue. This is more of an issue that Commissioner O'Donnell apparently may have got himself involved in. Allegedly, I just don't see how they directly connect. Although I will say it is a big controversy. It's a very, very serious allegation.
Sure. And
it is causing some challenges up here. I would say that because there is so much interest in this case that it is causing, I think, an overwhelming amount of our time just thinking about that and trying to deal with that issue. So it is a bit of a problem, but I hope that this gets adjudicated in court, quickly is my hope. Oh,
sure. And you're right. And it is kind of a personal matter in that sense. I've heard numerous individuals talking about, the process of the resignation. And I heard County Commissioner Richard Ranzau kind of mention the same thing about how he had hoped that Michael O'Donnell would step down during this process, being an elected official. And now what's the process for that? You said that, I don't really care what your vote would be one way or another, but what would be the process if someone had had tried it or tried to make this process happen for a resignation, could it be that he could be voted out? Does he have to step down on his own? What's that kind of process take?
I'm so glad you asked the question. That's a great question. And so I'll say this, we commissioners might make a statement or like a recommendation type of statement, but we don't have any authority over an elected official.
Okay.
I understand that the district attorney could suspend his service here if the district attorney felt like that was warranted. He could do that. But we cannot vote him out of our office. The only person that can really do that would be the people that elected him. There's 3 ways for him to leave office. If any one of these things could happen, if he was to be found guilty of a crime or plead guilty, a condition of that could be that he would resign his office. Although I don't know that he even has to necessarily. It depends on what the judge, the deal he makes with the judge or whatever. But that's something that could be forced upon him, or he might willingly do that. He might choose to resign. The second way would be an ousting. That's if the district attorney chooses to take charge, take these charges and use them. He could essentially say he's not fulfilled his obligations in the office and he needs to be removed forcibly. And the district attorney could essentially take him to district court and force an ousting, is what that's called. And then the third way would be a recall election. But a recall election is actually quite difficult. It is a process where someone's got to define the purpose for the recall, and that has to be verified by the district attorney that it's a legal reason for a recall. And then once that's done, it requires 40% of the people who voted for him. That number, not the exact same many people, of course, but that number is how many people have to sign a petition to put him on a recall election. And that's a pretty high bar, and there's a certain window of time you have to get those signatures, and so it's a fairly difficult thing to do. I don't know that, anyway, people might assume that we as commissioners have the ability to force him off the commission. It's just not true.
Sure.
We can issue an opinion, what he should do. We might encourage him, publicly or privately, and we might have those conversations. But in terms of forcing him off, now, by the way, if he does go off the board for any of those methods, if that was to happen in any case, then the Republican precinct people, because Commissioner O'Donnell's a Republican, and the way this works in a partisan position, that the Republican precinct people of his district, I've looked them up. I know who they are. Believe it or not, there's not that many of them, but they would have the right and opportunity to find someone in the district. It's registered Republican, and they could appoint them. It's kind of a small miniature campaign. It goes very quickly. Once this is decided, there's a very short window. I forget how many days it is, but it's around 20 days or so that they have to meet and actually vote to appoint the replacement for that seat, if that was to happen.
Okay.
And there's a number of people, obviously, that I think are prominent figureheads within that district that might jump up and say, I'd like to be considered. And so it's very premature to have that discussion today because, frankly, if that was to happen, a lot of things have to happen. I mean, this could be a year before this gets through the court system. So this is not necessarily going to be a fast process.
The courts like to take their time sometimes. Yeah,
absolutely. They take an enormous amount of time just to get to this point. So I don't know what the timetable would be. Then I have to tell you, there's still a possibility that this is going to go in his favor as well. So that's why I'm a little bit reluctant to presume that I know how this is going to turn out, or that I understand the process of things that could happen. But in terms of what should happen or what will happen, I don't think I'm qualified to really speculate on some of those things. But
sure.
Commissioner O'Donnell is pretty well known in this community. He's got lots and lots of friends, and I would say that I've watched him for years. I think we've disagreed on some things. We've agreed on some things. Nobody agrees with everybody all of the time. But on a professional level, as I've watched him do his work, I think he's done what I would expect a commissioner to do in terms of, going to the appointments and attending the board meetings and to dig into the issues and to make decisions on what's the best policy for Sedgwick County. That's what I do. And as I look at my colleagues, as far as I can tell, I think we all do a pretty good job at those types of things.
Sure.
So this issue that's being bandied about in the community and in the media right now, this is something that Commissioner O'Donnell needs to deal with. It's not a commission issue. It's more of a Commissioner O'Donnell issue, in my opinion. So I wish him the best in terms of putting together a good defense for himself and to work this deal out. And whatever the courts decide, I think, is what I need to embrace. I think that my position as an elected official is to embrace the system. It's called the justice system for a reason, and the justice system needs to do its job.
Sure. Well, very good. Well, we'll get more information on that as it comes out. As you mentioned, it's going to be a very long process, I'm sure, and the courts like to take their time on some of these things. So, but it's good to know. It's good to know and understand the process of what could potentially take place, either in the near future or in the long term. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left. I don't want to run out of time before we talk about the actual meeting this week. You guys have been off for a couple of weeks, but what's on the agenda for this week, for today? As you mentioned, Michael O'Donnell will be there, so it will be kind of a normal session, and you guys do have some stuff to address.
Yeah, we always, almost every meeting, we have some of these things. We have some board appointments, and we have some proclamations. That'll be interesting. We're going to basically honor some public safety officers of Public Safety Police Week. We're going to highlight that this week. We also have a little bit of an unusual situation where someone will be considered to be removed from a board for some conflict that has been happening on that particular board. So we'll talk about that. We have a conditional use item for a horse stable out in my district. That's always an interesting discussion when we have conditional use with some protest that will show up, I'm sure, and so we'll have to sort through all that. So really, today's kind of a normal meeting in regards to the actual agenda. The items on the agenda is fairly normal, but I don't consider the agenda to be too controversial today overall. I think it's going to be a fairly good meeting. It might be a long meeting. I would expect to be a few hours long today. Again, we do meet at 9 o'clock this morning in the Sedgwick County Courthouse at 3rd and Main, Central and Main. We are on the northwest corner in the blue building. 3rd floor, we do love the public to attend our meetings, and we do allow public comment. We usually allow comment on agenda items as well as public comment generally to the commission before them, at the front end of the meeting. It's a great opportunity. We do televise our meetings. They do go on YouTube. We do stream them live as well as they're available on our website after the fact. It's a great opportunity for people to interface their elected officials and to tell us what they're thinking or to help us make decisions on these agenda items. And then finally, Andy, I would like to change subjects slightly.
Sure. We
had several really great accomplishments in terms of our legislative agenda this year. Sedgwick County really led on the election audits. For years, we've been trying to find a way to solve this problem where we could audit our equipment. Unfortunately, because of the type of equipment we had, the courts said we were not allowed to essentially do an audit on the machine because the paper tape was only there for the voter to verify when they're voting. It was not intended to be an audit tape. And if someone was keeping track of individuals in the poll place, they could essentially tie that paper tape back to a voter and determine their selections. And so it's a privacy matter, and the courts said we could not audit that type of equipment. And so we've just been in a real quandary. Anyway, we spent about $7 million on new equipment, which was designed to be audited, and then we went and changed the state law. So actually, essentially, we're asking for them to mandate to us that we will do an audit. And guess what? It passed. We are now going to be doing audits from this point forward, and I love the fact that we led on this issue. I actually went to Topeka and testified in favor of this bill. I think I was the only elected official that ever attended those hearings, and I attended before the legislature and advocated for passage of this bill, made some recommended changes and that type of thing, and I'm so glad it did pass. I feel like that's a huge success, and so I'm proud of Sedgwick County, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of my colleagues for us getting this on the agenda and moving that issue forward. And we also passed a thing called urban area designation. We've noticed over the years that Johnson County has been able to pass all kinds of legislation that impacts just them. We're always scratching our heads like, how do they get that done? Well, we finally figured it out. They have what's called the urban area designation. Normally, legislation is a statewide uniform law. But if you want to have a law passed just for your community, we actually can do that now. And because we have this designation called an urban area, we can pass legislation that benefits or helps us solve problems in Sedgwick County specifically, even though it may not impact the rest of the state. So the rest of the state doesn't even care. They're like, well, whatever you guys want to do, we'll vote for it. We'll rubber stamp that stuff. And we can actually pass legislation more effectively that helps us do things for Sedgwick County. Because we're very unique in our state. We're 1/6 of our state's population, we have unique issues and unique problems, and we need some unique solutions to these problems. And so we can do that now with urban area designation. And then finally, we also passed the envelope bill. You might remember we had 23 voters this last election that we had to not count their ballots because they weren't able to comply with the requirements of the envelope on mail ballot. So we solved that problem, and we also led on that. In fact, I think I personally led on that, and we got that done. And so now people with disabilities that are completely and totally disabled that do have a process and a way that they can actually still vote. It's kind of a complex little solution, but we did get it done. I'm so proud of us for getting that done. And then finally, the election budget. That has been in the news a little bit. We do have oversight over every budget of Sedgwick County. Every other elected official comes under the fiscal watchful eye of the Sedgwick County Commission. And the only exception to that really was the election office because they report to Chris Kobach, the Secretary of State. And we felt like this was not right, that they don't have any type of local oversight over their budget. And in my opinion, they do make decisions to spend money that they for wants and not needs. And so we want to have some ability to manage their budget like we do everybody else's budget. And so we will do what's necessary to make sure that office runs smoothly and efficiently, but we do need to have fiscal oversight. An elected official that the people represent must have fiscal oversight over every tax dollar. Exactly. And this was a violation of that principle. So we fixed it.
Well, you know what? It's glad to hear, and it's encouraging to hear that we actually got something productively done, because I kind of did a recap of the session. We're going to have some legislators in the next few days doing a recap of the session, and to me, I saw it as kind of a dud session. So at least it helped on some of the local fronts there with the county commission and with the county itself, and being able to help and promote some things in that sense. At least we got to see a little bit of productivity actually come out of this session. Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell, it's the meeting today. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. Make sure to not miss it. Jim, we always love having you on the show, my friend. Appreciate it very, very much. And we'll chat with you again soon on some more of the information coming out of the county.
Thank you, Andy. You have a great day, sir.
Hey, always a pleasure. We love chatting with him. Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell there. Let's take a break, wrapping up hour number 2. Lots more to get to today. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Thanks again to Sedgwick County Commissioner Jim Howell joining the show as he always does on a Wednesday at 7:30. We appreciate that very much. A lot of information coming out of the Sedgwick County Commission right now with everything going on. Michael O'Donnell will talk about a little bit of that once more when we come back in hour number 3. Plus, it's open lines to you. No guests in hour number 3. Just you and I chitting the chat, advancing conservatism the way we do. Big election yesterday. We'll talk about that. Plus, some big news when it comes to some of the budget cuts at the federal level, some issues happening at the statewide level, and it's never ending. It just happens all the time. We'll talk about all of this and plus whatever's on your mind. Lots to get to in hour number 3. The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
Why would we give the ability for the Supreme Court to come back and say it's not adequate enough and be able to consume as much of the budget as they possibly want to for education, and then for everybody else to get the scraps and the leftovers? Why have we not focused on the Kansas Supreme Court's constitutional amendment to limit the power of the Supreme Court? Why is that not the number one priority and the only priority that we've had when it comes to educational finance?
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. What's happening? Simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. I tell you what, the wins keep on coming, baby. Win after victory after victory. It's kind of like the Patriots. Oh, wait a second. I know a lot of people may not be Patriots fans. That's all right. I'm kind of a Patriots fan. They just keep coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. And after a while, you're just like, you get used to it. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, that just happened moments ago. And we actually even get to scoop this even from the national news. Latest tweet from Donald Trump that just came out moments ago. I am pleased to inform you that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in the air on his way back from North Korea with 3 wonderful gentlemen that everyone is looking forward to meeting. They seem to be in good health. Also, good meeting with Kim Jong-un. Date and place set. Ladies and gentlemen, for you naysayers that say that Donald Trump had nothing to do with ending the Korean War, with ending the Korean conflict, with having anything to do with this entire situation happening over there, with them starting to work together again, whether it's a false flag, whether it's the smoke and mirrors, or whether it's actually legit, we just released 3 prisoners. They were haggling over it. They were trying to make that happen. And Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just made it happen. Again, the latest tweet from moments ago. Pleased to inform you that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in the air and on his way back from North Korea with 3 wonderful gentlemen that everyone's looking so forward to meeting. They seem to be in good health. He did it. President Trump did it. Mike Pompeo did it. Could you be more proud right now to be a Kansan? Right now, could you be more proud than any other time to be a Kansan and have someone like Mike Pompeo, being from Kansas and being from our area, to represent us not only in the congressional seat where he used to be, but then from the CIA and now in the Secretary of State's position? We're doing it. We did it. Ladies and gentlemen, and word to the Republican Party, hello, Republican Party, this is what you campaign on. All across the board. This is why the blue wave is completely absurd and stupid to even think about. It's not going to happen. If Hillary Clinton were in office right now, those 3 people would still be sitting in North Korea. North Korea would still be threatening to shoot missiles at us, and there would be no end of the conflict to South Korea. That's just the way it is. End of story, period. It would not happen. It's between Mike Pompeo, between President Trump, between Nikki Haley, between General Mattis, between all the wonderful individuals that we actually have leading our country right now. We talked about leadership earlier in the show. This is it. This is it. We're seeing it happen, and we're seeing it happen as a result of the election results as well. 5 states last night had their primaries, and the blue wave is not happening. The excitement, the activism. Look, the only people that show up to primaries are people that are politically engaged and active, which means you can really tell which side has more enthusiasm, has more excitement. And right now, the Republicans would have been able to maintain every single one of their seats in the 5 states, whether it was a House seat, whether it was a Senate seat, or whether it was the governorship or anything else locally that may have happened in those states. Republicans would have maintained every single one of them. Not a single one would have been able to be flipped, except for maybe one district, I believe in West Virginia, that was a close one that would have just, I mean, if you count up all the numbers by the total for the primary and the Democrats, the total for the primary and the Republicans, and be able to count those as if that would have been the general election, maybe one, but that again doesn't show anything. One. Where's the blue wave, baby? Where is it? We're not seeing it. Why? Because we're seeing productivity. Look, Americans want, and this is why we get so irrational and upset sometimes, is because we see lack of movement. We vote on somebody, especially conservatives. They're in there for 1 or 2 sessions and they say, oh, they're not doing their job. Get them out, get somebody else in. And we see the high rotation, which is not a bad thing. We see high rotation. Democrats like to have somebody in for a long time because they've been there. They feel comfortable with it. And even Republicans as well. There's a district in Ohio that actually had their primary yesterday, House District number 5, and Bob Latta has been in there for years. And he's a very slow-moving individual. He is not a very excited type of individual. He's not one that actually gets up and actually makes a statement. He's not a rabble-rouser. He's just there. And his dad held the position before that in that seat. And he's been there forever. And he had 2 or 3 challengers in the primary this time. Again, did not get dethroned. He still is holding on to his primary seat. And I guess it's a good time I could tell you a little bit of a story about Bob Latta. I thought it was this is my kickoff to my political career. I was working with the college Republicans. It was my freshman year of college, and I wanted to campaign for the opposition. I wanted to campaign for somebody else other than him and his challenger in the primary. He was a military guy. He was a staunch conservative. I don't remember his name right now, but I was a big fan of him. And I wanted to campaign for him. I wanted to help him out. I wanted to try and get the establishment moderate Republican that's been in there for years and years out of the system and get somebody fresh and new in there. Why we still go to the same rut, the same gutter, the same person over and over and over for 30, 40 years, it boggles the mind. I don't understand that. I don't understand it, but people get comfortable. So I was campaigning for the opposition. Steve Buer, I believe his name was, and you can actually find this. It was the headline of the Toledo Blade, the newspaper for Toledo out in Ohio. It was the big front page article, and it was literally like 2 weeks before the election. But I was campaigning for the opposition to Bob Latta, and I was helping him out, just wanting to do something. I was a freshman in college. I got involved with the college Republicans, wanted to be involved, wanted to be engaged, and I was really excited about it. And I went and campaigned for him, and I was doing well until I got a call from an individual who said he was representing a super PAC. I don't know if I should mention them or not. I guess why not? Club for Growth was the organization, and Club for Growth wanted to help me out and said, "Hey, you're campaigning for Steve Buer. It's fantastic. We want to help you out. We're campaigning for him as well. We're starting to get some information." Bob Latta used to be, I forget, a city council member, county commission, or something in that area. And can you go back and pull some data from the county open public records for that time frame and send it to us? And I said, okay, sure. And they said, oh, we'll pay you $100. Help out the campaign. Great. Went and did it, got the information, sent it to them, and then I never heard back, and I never got paid. And I was a little upset because I was a college kid wanting to make some money working the campaigns. So I had mentioned it to a few other people and said, hey, I was a little frustrated and didn't get paid. And apparently, I don't know if it's this rule nationwide. I don't know if it was just that time or whatever the case was, but someone had heard about the situation and said, wait a second, Andy, you work for the Steve Buer campaign. The super PAC's not allowed to contact you. It was a violation of the finance laws or the campaign laws. The super PAC is not allowed to reach out to volunteers or campaigners of the campaign locally. They're not allowed to do that. That's against campaign law. I didn't know that. I didn't intend to get anybody, violate that or hurt anybody. So the newspaper got a hold of the story. It was the breaking news, and Bob Latta ended up dominating the guy in the primaries and kind of shot his campaign down the toilet. So I felt really bad because I was trying to help out somebody, and nothing against Club for Growth, nothing against the Steve Buer campaign. It's just what happened, and I don't know where the mishap actually went or where it happened, but nonetheless, I guess I can say that my kickoff to the political career was being able to help destroy someone's campaign. Don't I feel special? So this time, Bob Latta's still in there. He's still hanging out. That was, 7, 8, 10 years ago. He's still in there doing his thing. But that's not going to be the case for long and for a lot of these people. Here's the story out of Indiana. I read this earlier. Here's the craziness. Indiana Republican Senate, the outsider, the anti-establishment business owner by the name of Mike Braun, ended up winning the GOP primary race for the Senate, beating two congressionally elected officials, U.S. Representatives Luke Messer and Todd Rakita, who are both running for the seat, and Mike Braun, the outsider, won that one. Here's the headline that's coming out all over the place, according to the Indianapolis Star. House incumbent wins primary, unclear if blue wave will reach in any of the fall. People not sure. Now we're questioning, is the blue wave actually going to happen? Is the blue wave actually going to do it? Is the blue wave actually going to be there? Because we're seeing massive numbers of people show up for the Republicans in every state that there's a primary. We're seeing massive number of Republicans show up enlightened, encouraged, excited, pumped up, ready to go. Because we see movement. We repealed partial of the individual mandate. We're beginning to fund the wall. We did a tax cut. We ended the Korean War. We're bringing home refugees, or we're bringing home prisoners, whether prisoners of war, prisoners, whatever they were, prisoners in Korea. I think they were just rabble-rousers out there causing some issues, whatever, and North Korea didn't like them. Bringing them home. We negotiated that. We pulled out of the Iran deal. That was a ridiculous ideal. And by the way, those that say, that we're just supporting Israel and we're just doing whatever Israel wants us to do, yes, we are working with them because they are a strong ally. We're not doing it because they told us to do so, but we do take very strongly what Benjamin Netanyahu mentions when he says, hey, look, Iran's actually doing these terrible things behind your back as opposed to the Iran deal. Your sanctions aren't doing anything, and it's actually going to be more dangerous. And we took that to heart, and we pulled out of the Iran deal. And that makes it a little bit more tough on Israel because they're ready for repercussions. If you see the story today, Israel is on high alert, ready for any type of retaliation coming from Iran because they're upset with the way things are going. We have people inside the U.S. government trying to sabotage President Donald Trump and his administration, like John Kerry, who should probably be locked away for treason because he's trying to go against the United States government and go behind our backs and work with Iran to try and make it happen. Should probably be locked up. But between that, between the Stormy Daniels issue, which I know you're sick and tired of hearing about, I haven't talked about it on the show because it's stupid. With so many other issues that we have going, with the Russian collusion still going on, the Mueller investigation, you're getting tired of hearing about it. Me too. Guess what? With all of that happening, we're still winning. We're still victorious.
Winning.
We're still doing wonderful things. And we still have an election where we're seeing massive Republican support and excitement. To me, that says that we're in for a good treat over the next few years because, hey, you know what?
We did it! We did it! We did it! Yay!
That's what I'm talking about. 19 minutes past the hour. We got a lot to talk about and get to. Your thoughts and calls as well. It is an open line to you for this hour. What's on your mind? As there are a lot of things happening, and they're happening very quickly. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Message on Facebook Live by somebody saying, Andy, come on. I know you got bad taste in music, but really, Green Day? They're liberal. Yeah, most bands are. Do you not watch any liberal actors on movies? Come on. By the way, that last segment, I know I am the bright ray of sunshine for you every single morning. I am the optimistic one. I mean, we have even our own segment now,
Andy's Optimism of the Day.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, our optimism of the day, and that's the way we roll today here on The Voice of Reason as we are seeing victory after victory after victory. It's almost like Floyd Mayweather, except we're not jerks. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones. What do you say? Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Good. What's on your mind?
This is wonderful that Trump signed or got rid of the Obama deal with Iran.
With Iran, isn't that nice?
Oh, it's wonderful, and it's insane. As Ezekiel 38 and 39 talk about that Iran, which the Bible calls Persia, is an enemy to the Lord God and to all the children of Israel and Christians. So what kind of an idiot would ever make a deal with our enemies?
Well, I mean, now I can see and I can try and see sometimes if you want to try and do it diplomatically and you want to make a deal to try and ease some of the tensions, but some people just you can't get through with. And hell, then I appreciate that because, I mean, you're right. I mean, sometimes you just think, why would you make a deal with these people? And these individuals, and it's not a religion, it's not the religion, it's just the mentality, it's the mindset, it's the thought process that they have. I mean, what are they doing now? They're out burning flags and saying death to America. They were doing that when we made the Iran deal. What's changed? They hate us not because of the fact that they say that it's because we violate their place with embassies and that we have an effect over there, but they hate Israel, they hate the United States, and they hate just who we are. They hate the fact that we have women that are actually equal, no matter what some of the progressives try and say. Women have the same voice, women have the same opportunities, women are equal in the United States. You can actually drive a vehicle, you don't have to cover your face. It's crazy. Like, you can actually have the choice to do what you want to do, and they hate that. They hate the fact that we are a free nation. They hate us just for the fact of being, and look, hateful is a very, very strong word, and I don't hate really anybody that I know of. There's not really anybody that I can think of off the top of my head that I actually hate, because hate is a very passionate word. But when you're singing and chanting death to America, for what? What did the Iran deal have an effect on them for if we say whether we're going to put sanctions on you or we're not going to put sanctions on you, and we're going to do a different deal with a little bit more stringent rules? What's it to you? You've already been doing that anyways, but all of a sudden now, oh, hey, look, President Trump pulls out death to America. Really? Really? That's what we're concerned about? Do it. We have an ally there, and unlike many progressives that like to walk away from your friends, we actually like to stick to our friends and actually defend them. We actually like to support them. And that goes in, by the way, on a personal level and on an international level. You can really tell the character of an individual if you just walk away from your friend or if you stand by him through thick and thin. And that's the perfect example of that was the Israel, yeah, you're an ally, but heck with you guys. What did Barack Obama do? Oh, yeah, that's right. He actually put sanctions somewhat on Israel, saying that if they actually tried to if they actually retaliated against Hamas or against some of these other nations going after them, that if they shot missiles, then we would shoot their missiles out of the air because how dare you actually retaliate when someone's trying to attack you? That was the Barack Obama era. Now we have the Donald Trump era saying, oh, you know what? They're doing things behind our back. They're coming after you. Watch this. Hold my beer. 316-721-8255. Let's take another phone call here, shall we, before the bottom of the hour. Good morning. What's your name?
It's Wallace.
Wallace, what's out? You got about a minute here. What you got?
Yeah. Okay. Hillary Clinton doesn't go out in public without a male escort, being her Secret Service detail. Number 2, she doesn't drive, just like women in the Middle East. And 3, I wish she wouldn't show her face. But
she would fit perfect over there then, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, just an observation on this Iran deal. Obama found $150 billion to just give to a terrorist state. And I understand this was money the United States, intercepted, and we held it for all these years, and supposedly it was the Iranians' money, but they're terrorists. You don't give drug dealers the money they got either. You don't give that money back. But they get $150 billion from Obama, but Trump can't seem to get $12 billion to build a wall that defend our borders.
Right.
Where did he find $150 billion? Where did he get it?
That's a good question. Where do we get that money to pay them? But you're right, we can't invest it in our home front. I appreciate that, Wallace. You make an excellent point. We're spending money up the wazoo. How much money actually goes out to other nations that, by the way, don't even support us in the United Nations? And Nikki Haley's even said that if you don't start supporting what we do, then we're going to stop funding you. You can vote however you want to. As a nation, you can represent however you want to, but guess what? You're not going to get our funds and money anymore because we could be spending that on the home front like, building a wall.
Patriotism is alive and well. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Wrapping up the show today, 36 minutes past the hour. It's great to have you along as we roll right along on a hashtag post-election Wednesday, having more fun than what we're supposed to be. Waking you up where the bright ray of sunshine, where sometimes sunlight just don't see. That's the way we roll. 316-721-8255. By the way, I want to tell you real quick, we need your help. We need your help. We are working on our very first annual KQAM KGSO cookbook. What kind of recipes you got? It's warm time, it's summertime, maybe the barbecue grilling season. Do you have maybe a recipe that you're just proud of? Let us know about it. Dinners, desserts, breakfast, drinks, barbecue, it does not matter. Submit yours. And oh, by the way, you get a chance to win a really nice prize. When you submit, you get a chance to win a very new, brand spanking new pellet grill from Wichita Tractor. Wichita Tractor, wichitatractor.com, or you can visit them 1750 Southwest Street here in Wichita. They're giving the possibility for you to actually win a pellet grill from Wichita Tractor. All you got to do is submit your recipe, your favorite recipe, whatever it may be. Just email it to recipe@kqamradio.com. Email it recipe@kqamradio.com. We'll get your recipe in our first annual cookbook, and then you might get a chance to win that pellet grill. More information online, kqamradio.com. KQAMradio.com, which, by the way, the new website is up and rolling as well. You can check that out. Lots of great information on that one. Rick Everett swinging in here. I was going to play the news clip for you here.
Well, no, that's why I held up the flashcard.
Oh, but it's a fun liner. Let's do it.
And it's time for some good news.
Okay, here we go, people.
Well, it's been a day of good news anyway, so what the heck?
You want me to just come up with some news? I mean, I could probably wing it.
No, that's all right. This is the entertaining news of the day.
Well, it's not even entertaining news. It's just kind of I'm not one that's into conspiracy theories normally.
I like conspiracy theories.
But this whole smoking gun, a.k.a. James Comey, right?
I
mean, he's the smoking gun, kind of. You know what I mean?
Sure, kind of, sort of.
Allegedly, he has a card up his sleeve, the Trump card, if you will.
Well, his 7-foot-long sleeve. Good golly.
Yeah.
How tall is that guy?
Now he is the one. You're the political guy, so I want to make sure I have my ducks in a row.
Okay.
I'm just a lowly news guy.
Oh, yeah.
So he is the one, right, that is supposedly has the smoking gun that could cause people to question Mr. Trump as far
allegedly
as the payoff of the blonde.
I don't know about the payoff of the blonde. I mean, he's had the information supposedly about why he was fired and the investigation with Russia that supposedly was trying to be obstructed because of the firing of, and some of the stuff that they were. So, and then of course James Comey came out with his book and is traveling around as well. So he's got apparently, allegedly, some information that could damage him because of obstruction of justice, which isn't the case and isn't happening. But they try. They try to make themselves feel important.
Okay. Well, I've got a good friend over at Miracle Signs.
Yes.
Okay. And his name is Joe Poston. And Joe provided me with some points to ponder about James Comey.
Something to think about. Oh, hold on. We need some music for this.
See, and that's what I was wanting to tell you. Okay,
there we go.
That'll work. Okay. So, from 2001 to 2005, there was an ongoing investigation into the Clinton Foundation. A grand jury was impaneled, and governments from around the world donated to the Clinton charity. Yet, from 2001 to 2003, none of those, quote, donations for the Clinton Foundation were ever declared.
Makes you think.
Now, you would think that an honest investigator would be able to figure this out. Guess who took over the investigation in 2002?
I can only imagine.
None other than James "What's Up, Homie Comey." Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's interesting, isn't it?
That is. I mean, you would think that would be something to be concerned about.
Guess who was transferred into the Internal Revenue Service to run the tax exemption branch of the IRS? Your friend and mine, our favorite person in the whole world, if you're a Tea Party member, pro-life, or a True Vote supporter. Ding, 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 ding. Be on the lookout. Okay. So, and that's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. Now, it gets better.
Okay.
Well, not really. But I'm sure this is all just a series of strange coincidences.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Guess who ran the tax division inside the Department of Injustice from 2001 to 2005?
Starts with a J.
None other than Assistant Attorney General of the United States, Rod Rosenstein.
Oh, Rosenstein. Well, of course. Yeah, Rod Rosenstein.
Okay. Now, guess who was the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation during this time frame?
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's a miracle. Just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence.
Just an anomaly. It was Robert Mueller.
Shocker.
Okay.
Shocker.
Now, what do all four casting characters have in common? We're talking Mueller, we're talking Rosenstein, we're talking Lerner, and Comey. What do they all four have in common? That they were all briefed and or were in front-line investigators into the Clinton investigation. Now, that's a coincidence, right? Let's talk one more mere chance. Fast forward to 2009. James "What's Up Comey" leaves the Justice Department to go and cash in at Lockheed Martin. Hillary Clinton is running the State Department on her own personal email server, by the way. The Uranium One issue comes to the attention of Hildebeest. Okay?
Hildog!
Like all good public servants do, looking out for America's best interest. That's
sure,
what all good servants do. Hildebeest decides to support the decision and approve the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium to no other than the Russians. Now, you would think that's a fairly straight-up deal, except it wasn't. The people got absolutely nothing out of it. However, prior to the sales approval, No other than Arkansas Bill goes to Moscow, gets paid $500,000 for a 1-hour speech, and then meets with Vladimir Putin at his home for a few hours. No big deal, right?
I did not collude with Russia.
Well, not so fast. The FBI had a mole inside the money laundering and bribery scheme. Guess who the FBI director during this time frame was? Robert Mueller.
Oh, shocker.
He even delivered a uranium sample to Moscow in 2009. Guess who was handling the case within the Justice Department out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland? Rod Rosenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what happened to the informant? The Department of Justice placed a gag order on him and threatened to lock him up if he spoke up about it. Now, how does 20% of the most strategic asset of the United States of America end up in Russian hands when the FBI has an informant, a mole, providing inside information to the FBI on the criminal enterprise? Well, guess what happened soon after the sale was approved? $145 million in donations made their way to the Clinton Foundation from entities directly connected to the Uranium One deal. Guess who was still at the Internal Revenue Service working the charitable division? None other than Lois Lerner. Lois Bolo Lerner. Interesting, huh? Just another series of coincidences.
Sure.
Now let's fast forward to 2015. Due to a series of tragic events in Benghazi and after the 9, quote, investigations that the House, Senate, and State Department Trent Gowdy, who is running the 10th investigation chairman of the Select Committee on Benghazi, discovers that the Hildebeest ran the State Department on an unclassified, I can say that, unauthorized outlaw personal email server.
Hell dog!
He also discovered that none of those emails had been turned over when she departed her public service as Secretary of State, which is required by law. I'll spare you the State Department's cover-up, the nostrums they floated, the delay in tactics that were employed, the outright lies that were spewed forth from the necks of the Kerry State Department. We'll just leave that. They did everything humanly possible to cover for Hildebeest. But now this is amazing. Guess who becomes FBI director in 2013? Guess who secured 17 no-bid contracts for his employer with the State Department and was rewarded with $6 million thank you presents when he departed his employer? None other than James, what's up, homie Comey.
Craziness.
Amazing how all those no bids went right through the state, huh? Now he's FBI director in charge of the Clinton email investigation. After, of course, his FBI investigates the Lois Lerner matter at the Internal Revenue Service and exonerates her. Nope, couldn't find any crimes there. Can you guess what happened next? April 2016, James, what's up, homie? Comey drafts an exoneration letter for Hillary Rodham Clinton. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is handing out immunity deals like candy. They didn't even convene a grand jury. Like a lightning bolt of statistical impossibility, like a miracle from God himself, like the true gangsta that homie James is.
Don't act like you're not impressed.
James steps out into the cameras of an awaiting press conference on July the 8th of 2016 and exonerates the Hildebeest from any wrongdoing. Can you see a pattern?
Not at all.
Now, I could go on. Rosenstein becomes the assistant attorney general. Comey gets fired based on a letter by Rosenstein that Comey leaks government information to the press. Mueller assigned to the Russian investigator and Russian investigation sham by Rosenstein to provide cover for decades of maleficence within the FBI and the Department of Justice, and the story goes on ad nauseum. FISA abuse, political espionage, pick a crime, any crime. Chances are this group and a few others did it. All the same players, all compromised and conflicted, all working fervently to not go to jail themselves, all connected in one way or another to the Clintons. They're like battery acid. They corrode and corrupt everything they touch. How many lives have these two destroyed? It can't be numbered.
I kind of like the Tim Allen comparison of what the Clintons are instead of battery acid, and that would be herpes.
Yes. The Clinton Foundation, in its 20-plus years of operation of being the largest international charity fraud in history of mankind, has never, ever been audited by the Internal Revenue Service.
How crazy is that? All the ties, all the connections, all the red lights, all the red flags, but yet we don't seem to see it and don't seem to care, I guess, for a lot of people.
And then the other thing is how people just mysteriously have a loss of life if they get too close to blowing the lid on something.
See, they commit suicide and they find themselves chopped up in a bag. But they commit suicide.
Like that.
You know what? Here's what James Comey is.
He's a jackass.
I guess I could have kept it a lot shorter by just doing that.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, that just kind of sums it up right there.
He's a jackass.
All right, got to take a break. 49 minutes past the hour right there. That's how you sum up that. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the program today. Just a few minutes left. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. 316-721-8255. By the way, I apologize for... There's been a few messages on the Facebook Live throughout the show today, and I didn't see them until just now. I was looking over in my machine over here that actually does the Facebook Live. Usually has all the comments and it has not who's viewing, but a number of views and that sort of thing. And today it's just been blank the whole time. I didn't know how many people were viewing or not viewing today. I didn't even show or pop up any type of comments. And also, I just saw them when I was monitoring it over here, so I apologize for the delayed response. I did get to see them finally and did get to actually respond to them, so I appreciate that very much for you doing so. Like it, share it. The Facebook Live is up and rolling every single day. 316-721-8255. By the way, I want to remind you again one more time today, check it out, KQAMradio.com. KQAMradio.com. The website's up and rolling. You can see the show information. You can see the station promotions, like the one with our KQAM KGSO cookbook. If you want information on that, on how to get registered, how to submit your recipe, how to email it to us, go to KQAMradio.com and you'll see that. Also, for the show, go to KQAMradio.com. Under the shows, local shows tab, you can find the Voice of Reason. You can find the daily blog. You can find the podcast. You can find the show, the weekly guest lineups that we have. You can find all the information if we have any promotional events or any events that I might be going out to and participating in. Go there, check it out. KQAMradio.com. Check out the station stuff, and under the local shows tab, you can find the Voice of Reason. So go check it out. The website is officially up and rolling, and if I may say so, because I built it, it's pretty freaking awesome. Let's go to the phones here and take a few calls while we wrap up the show today. Line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, this is Gary.
What's going on, Gary? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm all excited. How about we all get together and take our Iranian flags down to the courthouse and burn them?
There you go. Yeah, maybe we could take our Iranian flags down there. We can burn them, and we can say death to Iran, and that way we can, feel like we're contributing.
But here's the question. This Iran hates America so much. What are they doing with American flags, and where are they getting them?
They're supporting capitalism by going and purchasing them by a distributor that actually manufactures the flag and sells it and produces it. So they're supporting capitalism while they say death to America because we're a capitalist nation. It's really a beautiful piece of irony right there.
It is. Have a great day, Andy.
I love it, Gary. Appreciate it very much. No, you're right. I mean, the irony just bleeds through. I love irony. And that's what I got to say, I may not be the smartest guy in the world, but one of my qualities that I do enjoy is being able to pick out irony. And that's a beautiful thing. Buying a capitalist flag under a capitalist system produced by a capitalist corporation that transported it out to you to be able to purchase it in a convenience store for you to be able to buy it and burn it because you hate capitalism. Kind of like going to a Michael Moore movie and saying you hate capitalism and watching a movie about anti-capitalism while you go to a private owned theater and buy popcorn to go and watch it at the theater, or maybe buy the DVD because of a capitalist company that actually allows you to do so. Oh, the sweet irony. We got about a minute left here. Let's sneak in one more phone call. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, brother. It's Joe.
Joe, what's happening, my friend?
Just heading to work, brother. Hey, And you know the worst part about that little thing that you and Rick Everett just did on all the Comey and everything else?
Yes.
Nobody's in jail, and we don't have a AG that's willing to step up and put on his big girl panties and take him to jail.
Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild?
I mean,
We've had complete corruption going on in the government with them going about their own individual agendas, and no one's getting in trouble for it.
Nothing, and that's the thing that probably kills me the most, and I'm the most outspoken on is why will nobody step up? I know that the Clintons have long-reaching fingers, and like you said, they seem to commit suicide and end up in a body bag cut up in 42 pieces every time they do something. They think that they're going to do something, but this is the reason we have the separations of powers of the state, right? Of the three separate governments, so that you wouldn't have this.
Amen to that, my friend. But here's the thing.
Have a great day.
You as well, Joe. I appreciate it very much. Here's the thing. The deep state is too deep. We have a bureaucratic state that's really the fourth branch of government that is unsupervised with that checks and balance system, because we were supposed to only have 3 branches. Now we have 4, and that one doesn't have a whole lot of oversight in it. Corruption, what? This is The Voice of Reason. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.